Welcome to the Status Quo. I'm your host, Chance. Today, we are joined by Sundered Gaming's narrative director, author of the book Battle of Lindly, Bear Pardun.
Hello.
So today we're starting off with a little bit of a different kind of cadence. Instead of me going into questions, we are actually going to start with the very beginning of the Battle of Lindly, Scribe Note. I'd let you take over, Bear.
Awesome. So in the book, the intro, it's scribe note. It's written by the order of requirement, a retelling of the events that happened because of what's happening in the future. So all of the events that the readers are reading in the Pantheon of Tyranny have already happened. The scribe is writing all of this to give a true accounting because more stuff is happening beyond the Pantheon of Tyranny that we'll read in other books. But so we're get right into it right here. I, the humble scribe of the order of requirement, do willingly and wholly attest to the truth of these historical archives. This is a telling of our forgotten antiquity. Many generations have passed since the events described in this tome. Some of you reading this for the first time never lived through the tyrannical rule of self-righteous Asmalor, the defiler Uruk, and their ambivalent sister Malachus. When I was asked to keep a record of all that has transpired, I was overwhelmed. I wondered where to begin. So after a long deliberation with the council, we concluded that a lesson in the Pantheon and how it related to the mortal races was the best place to begin. In this forgotten era, the gods were in our daily lives. Each of the god siblings had created 4 primarchs, also known as avatars or demigods. Within these primarchs was the template to create all the mortal races. They wielded immense power, demigods to the primary 3, Uruk, Asmalor, and Malachus. The primarchs subjugated their creations and the children, and the mortals. They even garnered worshippers for themselves, all under the watchful eye of the 3 sibling gods. The Primarchs created a small path for mortals to obtain a form of immortality by proving themselves loyal and having supreme skill. In this, a mortal could be given the right and honor of being an Ark. This was rare, but the chance spurred many to redouble their devotion to whomever they wished to achieve an Arcdom under. As we understood it, the Pantheon was split between the 3 siblings. Malachus was the mother of all creatures, the guardian of the wild and its secrets. Asmalor, the righteous, with a sense of honor, revealed himself as the savior of the world with an air of grandeur. He commanded his faithful with a firm hand, and anyone who strayed from his teaching was met with stern consequences. Last is Uruk, the firstborn. He believed it was his duty to challenge his siblings to be greater, though he did this by using his primarchs and his creations to attack the others, causing war for generations. We can find few reprieves from this ongoing war in our history, but one of the longest stretches started 444 years before Aristin's birth, at the conclusion of the Second Great War. For a more thorough breakdown of the demigods, I have drawn out a hierarchy below. I have also included a copy of the Old World map, which will help in locating and relating the provinces to modern cities. Now let us begin the unadulterated tale of Ariston, a man all the world knows of now, but then he was just one of many countless others under the yoke of the god's whim. This, as I can attest to, was a heavy yoke indeed. That's a reading from the original rough draft. Now it's gonna have some changes, I'm sure. Well, I know it has changes. Nevertheless, it's just like a little teaser.
No, I absolutely love it, and like just listening to it, like I said last time, I've read the book 3 times now, and just listening to you read that short intro, I have shivers because I think about all the history that's there, all the future that's there, and I know it's just starting right in the middle, and you still get to experience all of it, and then I still get to experience all of it. And I don't think as many times as I could read it, that I'm ever not going to have the chills, the emotions, just because I enjoy this story so much.
I like it too. It gets me excited. Like every time I read stuff about it, or like when I'm doing edits with Danielle, I, just sitting there and I'm like reading the scene, and I'm like, it's like I've never read it before. I'm like, no, no, or like I'm like, yes, go. Like I get into it and I'm like, oh, I wrote this. I can't be mad at myself. I wrote that. Like,
There were plenty of scenes in the book where I could have called you and been like, "You dirty." Ugh.
yeah.
Yeah, there were a couple rough ones that little difficult to read, little bit of tear jerkers, but that is neither here nor there. So the first book starts with Eris Tin, and it kind of starts with him and his father and their story together. It starts when he's a little bit older, kind of coming into manhood. So there's lessons of him growing up that we didn't get to see or get to read. But how did Latera, as a whole, get to the point where it's at that point? In the scribe note, it talks a little bit about Uruk and his desire to push his siblings. But how did that come about? How did those three gods decide, you know what we're gonna do with our creations? We're gonna send them to war and fight each other. Because why not? Like what started that?
Well, it all really started. They created the the realm, basically, the where they are, using difficult, all of that. So what I will say is this: what ends up spurring all of it, I can't reveal too much. I would say it started with the rivalry between two brothers. One believes that this path is a way to go. Like, if we do everything the right way, we teach the honor, we teach love and compassion, all these righteous things, and then we lead our people above and beyond to where we could reach out and conquer the galaxy, or whatever that the end goal would be. But the other brother, which would be Uruk, believes that uh, whatever it takes to be victorious, whatever I have to do, that if it's nasty, if it's bad, if it's evil, you consider it evil, whatever. The ends justify the means, and that I'm going to show my brother that that's the way to do it. Now, Malachus doesn't care like about any of that. She just wants to create creatures and have her own little domain, and like this peaceful serenity around, like that's all she wants. She has no ambition. And so she thinks her brothers are just ridiculous. Like, we are in charge. We created these beings, these creatures. We should be caretakers. So what she tries to do is balance that out. She helps Asmalor sometimes. She helps Uruk. Now, I guess a better way to put it, so in before the first war, before all that happened, there was like many years of, like, there were obviously little fights, little skirmishes, whatever, but there was no major outbreak of war. The two sides had not completely started imposing or opposing each other. It was more of like a, hey, we don't really like you, but we're gonna do business with you, that kind of stuff. We're separate cultures, but there actually started to be a little bit of blending, and especially within the humans. Humans we as humans don't care as much about, like, oh yeah, okay, you're a big wig over here, you're a big wig for over there, but we can work with anybody because we're like the hybrids. So Uruk's people, like Lestar especially, realizes that the humans have the potential to be easily corrupted, and that's when she starts. She really invests a lot of into twisting the humans. So there was that schism within humanity where a bunch of them decide they want to go serve Uruk with all the promises, because Uruk tells them, "Hey, I know Asmalor looks at you guys like you're the lowest on the totem. I think you have potential. I believe in you. I think you could be greater. So in my kingdom, you're an equal, sort of." And that's the part that they don't. He doesn't. No one really. knows until you're there. Now, of course, if you're very skilled, like the Call Turo, that guy, he's was a really powerful wizard, a human, like blah blah blah. He what happens to him is crazy. But the uh all that happens, but so you have all these like thousands and thousands of years of this ongoing war, right? And one of the houses, which is House Andreas, that was a force to be reckoned with and helped keep humanity united. But most of humanity united under the banner of Asmalor and all that. But when Valerie gets his special dispensation to leave the mortal realm and enjoy paradise from Asmalor because he had served, he was given a longer life so that he could continue his good work. And when he's given that, you have a sort of shift in all the different houses of humanity. They all start thinking, well, I don't really need to be a part of this whole alliance anymore. I can kind of do my own thing. So each house slowly trickles and falls, like it becomes forgotten or like doesn't mean anything anymore. Some of them even got taken over and became like guilds. Um, and so you have humanity as a whole is just like crumbling. We're just fodder now. There's no there. We have you have the legions and all this, but even they don't. There's no good cohesion. There's no everything that Asmalor had promised from the beginning has kind of trickled away. It's the his righteousness has become self-righteous and dogmatic and cruel, and that has spread to his people through from the elves all the way down to the humans, and they're fractured. And so society at this point, instead of the houses being important as important as they used to be, even though some of them still try to hang on to that dignity and like we're still around. Um, Most of it is all the cities, major cities, are run by the Inquisition or the High Elf Inquisition, who is like the religious order, and then through that they uh, have these different guilds that kind of keep in charge the districts and make sure the cities are. And that's just in particular, it's clearly seen in the city of Asmodine. It's a massive city, and it has tons of people from all over the realms. Like, just it is insane how chaotic and how that city even can run on the day to day with all the corruption. I mean, like in this just in the city as a whole. So you start off with like the humans being just kind of like the farmers. They're serving, they're building, they're doing the things that they're supposed to do. And then House Andreas is like, well, we can be more. And as even Asmalor is impressed with the demeanor and how intelligent and how unique it seems that like these humans actually are, and the potential. So Valerie Andreas is the one that convinces and shows them, like, look, we're valuable, we're good soldiers, we're disciplined, we're loyal, and so the humanity gets built up under him, and it's a fantastic, it's almost a fantastic, even though it's kind of rough still with the wars and all that. But there is a sense of pride in humanity. We're united, and like we're kicking butt. And then you have all of these through time, all of these things start to fracture. No one really could pinpoint like why it's all happening. They just think this is the wheel that we're stuck under. It terrible, but we'll make do. Um, and so I think for Asmalor, I don't even think he. I guess best way to say it is he doesn't see his own corruption. He doesn't see that he's fallen from where he was. So he doesn't see the world going bad. He thinks things are going pretty good. Like, not so bad, guys. Like, life's hard. Get used to it.
So you're saying Asmore kind of gets to the point of the ends justify the means.
Like his brother.
Yeah.
And that's like it's crappy to see that, but it's also necessary for the whole story.
So you brought up a point in the beginning where you said, as Malor wanted to raise up his creatures righteous and caring and loving and all that. And then you said Urok wanted to take, not by force, wanted to show them, the power and the potential and all that they could gain through force. But the two brothers being essentially equal and both being creators of the world, why did Urok all of a sudden have that intention of we need to show them how to take what they want? We need to show them to be powerful when they own it all already. They created it. Why did that spur so much war and death and destruction?
So, if you look in the terms of like an eternity or a timeline, these are young gods. They are not. They're not wise. They don't. They're older. Like they're thousands and thousands of years, but they're young gods, and they don't realize that with the amount of power that they wield, the more the power that they get, the more they understand their own magics, their own abilities, the more they gain. If they don't have within themselves a means to balance that out, that power slowly corrupts them. That's built into the universe. So the more powerful you get with magics, or if you're playing with souls, or if you're, it depends. Each type of magic different. You have blood magic. You have all these different types, but they're all in a sense connected. The more you play with something, the more you embrace. Let's say you're like, I'm gonna do this for this reason, but in your heart, it's not the reason you're saying. The heart is what's leading that magic to be tainted, leading these things. So they're in their mind, they're thinking, well, we're not the only gods, right? We happen to have the domain over Latera. We know there's other beasts or whatever you want to, other gods out there, and we need to take over and become the God or gods of all the universe, not just our little planet here, which isn't little, it's huge. If we a comparison, a good comparison would be like Jupiter in size. It is huge. Um,
For anybody else like me who has no clue how big Jupiter is, I'll throw an image up on the screen.
big. so so they know that. So the contention they have is, well, which way do we go? Do we just build together and then try to branch out and conquer? Well, the brothers have a disagreeing about that, and Malachus wants nothing to do with it. She's just like, no, cool here, guys, whatever. But they are like, well, we have plenty of time. No one really knows that we're here. We're hidden. Or at least they believe that they're hidden. They don't really know. However, so anyway, they decide that they're gonna have a competition with their creations. That you make your best, I'll help you. You help me. We'll do them together. We'll make all of these species. We'll do all this. We'll have a almost like they're setting up a chess game or a board game to play. So for generations, they're building these people up, teaching them, doing all of this stuff, including with their children, like their Elivandel, Calizadel, all of them. They're building all of them up only to bring them to slaughter, just to see if this way is better or this way is better. That's it. So then, once they determine that, they'll decide how to go on and figure out what the next level is. Like there's a movie where Eddie Murphy, where they flip the role. The poor guy, the guy that's on the street, trading places, and they did it all over a bet for $1. So they ruined this rich guy's life by making him a poor person and take the poor guy and put him in the rich life. They flip him, and it was all a bet to see if they could actually do it. And then it's all over for $1. And it's like to me that it's so vile that they would ruin this one guy's life and elevate this other guy just to do it. But that's kind of like what these brothers are doing. But they're doing it for billions of people. Like literally, like yeah. We're building you up. You're gonna be great. Go get him, boys.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
they're
like
they're doing all of that to prove their own point.
all for their own personal. It has nothing to do like, yeah, of course you can say you're righteous, Asmar. Of course you can say you're the good guy, but your actions and what your people are doing are not. You are not a representation of what is. And that's the thing like with Victus. Victus understands and starts to see this because of what he chose to do with his life. And you'll see that in the book. And from that he has a better understanding and he's trying to not be sacrilegious by talking to his sons and the people that he values, but he's trying to be like, hey, this is not right. And I can't do all of this alone. I need more people, more people to rally, more people of bearing and authority to come out and be like, no, 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 we stand with right. This is wrong. I don't care what God is saying it. And so it's
It's a little difficult because if you have everybody who's in subjugation under Uruk won't won't falter from their subjugation. They will continue to serve Uruk till the end. At least from everything you've told me about the lore and how it all works. But if you had a subsect of Asmalor's people, even if you had a third of them say, this is wrong, we're going to stand up against it. Well, now you just took, it's no longer, half the world versus half the world. It's half the world versus 2/5 versus 1/5. And now my numbers are wrong, and now you've just created so much more of a tide for the evil to win. So you have all these people who would almost rather deal with the subjugation and false righteousness of Asmalor just so that Uruk doesn't take over.
right. Yeah. And especially when you have, especially when, because people still fall for the tricks, especially humans. Our lives are not as long as everybody else's. Most of the other races have chosen ones that are eternal or will not die. And but humans, we didn't get our first one until Valerie and the House Nesk guy. He So they have a lot more longevity. We are shorter lived, so we forget how bad Lestar could be, how bad that side can be. So the promises from them would seem like saving grace from the tyranny that because you don't bring someone in and just immediately put them into the torment, right? You want people to continue to choose your side. So of course they elevate someone. And that's what they did with Turo, which ended up convincing tons of other human mages who were super powerful. For like 300 years, Turo had went and started collecting and convincing these other mages to join, only to find out that the eternal life that was offered to all of them was actually death and lichdom. And now they're all enslaved, which they don't like.
You just gave a lot more of the lore than I thought you were going to give right there.
Oh, it's insane. But like when you see the manipulation and all of that, like with what she does and how she does it and how she convinces, like Turo had his own pet project that he tried to keep a secret, and people found out about it. In particular, Lestar found out about it and liked it, and well, liked it in the sense of like, ooh, you're powerful enough to be doing this stuff, then you are going to be really powerful for me. So I will help support you. I know the elves don't like what you're doing, but my dark elves, we like this. Like it's fine. So we'll fund you. We'll help you get what you need to keep doing this. So she, for over like these years, she's cultivating this relationship through her priestesses, her priests, and these other magic users, and he just falls into that corruption. Just and yeah,
You see a very small, very, very small glance of that when you see her interactions with Nabarn. Like he doesn't have the power or the strength necessarily that all these other humans had, but she uses him as such a tool that he thinks that he is gaining
yeah.
so much.
But he's not gaining anything, right?
No,
I mean, he is, but he isn't. It's like
It's all in his short-term mind. He
yeah.
thinks he's becoming so unbelievably powerful, and at the same time, it means absolutely nothing.
Yep. And he doesn't realize like there is a strategic reason that Lindley is important to. It's the last major city before you get to Asmodine. So if you're going to attack Asmodine, you need to take Lindley. Or if you're because or if you could do a two-front attack from the sea and from the south. So there's a lot of reasons why she chooses humans, even if they're more pedestrian, more mundane. They don't have as much power. House Nesk has the power because it has a name, it has a very famous name, like very. They were the first ones. I've said this before. That traversed the seas under Admiral Nesk, who commanded the sea soldiers. Valerie Andreas was focused on. So you have your two commanding generals, if you will, in the first two great wars. But the so Lestar, yeah, she is perfect at seeing inside humanity's weakness. What do you desire? The power? She'll see it and she'll find it and she'll find a way to manipulate you, see it her way, and she'll be like, I'll help you. Little, little more, little more joy. And most of the humans think that they understand it. Like, oh yeah, we got it. I understand what's going on. I know I'm in the good, but they have no idea that she looks at you as just nothing. You're, but she makes them feel special. That's for sure.
You've talked a lot about Asmalor and Uruk. What about Malachus? So obviously she wanted to build and create and to nurture her creations, and most would think that she would pick a side of quote unquote the good brother. But the fact that she kind of played both sides is a little telling to what her story is going to be throughout, the histories and throughout the future of what all Latera looks like. I am genuinely curious as to why she didn't just pick a side, why she tried to play both sides.
It goes back to when they were first born into existence, if you will. They were all young. They're these younger gods, and Malachus being the youngest, the brothers looked out for her, took care of, and she looked up to both of them. They played with her. Like, think about a family, and this one child, or Malachus, loves both of her brothers equally. The brothers even love each other. Uruk doesn't want to kill Asmalor. Asmalor doesn't want to kill Uruk. They want to prove their point. Malachus doesn't want more bloodshed than needs to be necessary. She knows they're gonna fight. She knows that she's not doesn't want to pick a side really, but she will pick a side when it comes to her domain. If you come into her territory, it doesn't matter who you are. If you are not invited, you will be rebuffed, and she is not nice about it. Like, hey, you guys know the rules. Stay out of my land. Stay out of my business, and I help both of you. I'm neutral, but not. Don't mess with my stuff. And I honestly, the motivation for her is she loves her brothers, and she can't choose between one or the other. Like she won't do it, and she thinks both of them are silly, wasting their time, and that's why while these guys are fighting, she's creating magnificent beasts. Like, she's the one that is the author and the creator of the dragons, who become a whole separate race unto themselves, not controlled or dominated by gods, but like free and like to do what they want. She is a genius when it comes to creating and facilitating the things in nature. It's quite, and that's what her passion and what she prefers doing. The She doesn't have the courage yet stand up to her brothers and say enough is enough until, I would say, around the time we're at with Eris. At this point, when Eris is around, she has gone full on just isolationist. These are my territories. You get even close, I'm tired of the fighting. Like, get out of here. She's stopping most of her people from interacting. Like, she is just kind of closing off because I think the best way to would say it for people wanting to understand it, she has a great sorrow for all that's transpired. Like, it's almost like she like regret, like I didn't do what I should have done. Like, and now it's too late. So I have to try to preserve what I can now. Is this is all I have, and this is my brothers are idiots, and I don't want to be a part of them anymore.
So it's interesting that you say like the love that all three of those, siblings have for each other, because we've talked a little bit about, the future and what that looks like within the storyline, and it kind of just solidifies a little bit of that story for me as to why some things begin to happen. But would you be interested in sharing the dinner when the first one
Yeah, yeah.
starts?
So the first war actually starts in the city of Asmodine. Now we have the intermingling of the races, in particular the dark elves, which the high elves do not like, but the other races deal with them. Humans, gnomes. They're in the markets. They're in the city. They're all over. The gods on this particular day, Uruk and Asvalor and the Arcs are celebrating. They're like, we've done so much. This is great. We've built this whole world. Our civilizations are thriving. Like, this is celebration. Yay! So you have all the demigods and gods celebrating the fruit of their labor. And a courier comes in during because they're in the heavens plane, or because there's, I think, like 9 different planes. I can't remember off the top of my head. I have them all. But anyway, they're in the heavens plane, and the courier comes in and is like, what you'd consider an arc, like an elven arc, comes in and says, Asmodine's under attack. And Asmodine is like, what? What do you mean under attack? And Uruk lifting up his glass like, yeah, I'm taking your, and he's drinking. So he's drinking, and the whole city is being engaged in combat. Like, it's how it starts is in the town market, the big market where everybody's hustling and bustling. You have the dark elves on there selling their silks and all this stuff, and there's just like a little nod from the like a commanding priestess or priest, and they just start slaughtering. So you have bells ringing, and people are running towards the center. Well, surrounding the city on the sea and on land is a cloaked army that of Uruks that just starts bombarding the city, and that's how the first war starts. Is they're like right at their dinner table, and Uruk's got all this stuff going on. And he's already planned all this stuff up, and Asmalor is obviously enraged. Like, how dare you try to take my capital? And yeah, that's where it starts, and it just kicks off from there because Asmalor is enraged, and I kind of want to tell too much more from that whole scene, but I think that's enough.
And I think it's a little telling when you're looking at that. Like, he's enraged to the point that he's very angry at his brother, but he's not doing anything about it. He doesn't go down to save his people. He doesn't go down to save his city. He starts playing the chess game.
Right. It's basically he gets his, because the dinner, obviously the whole fight, the arguments and whatever breaks out, and everybody goes their separate ways because obviously the dinner's over now. But then it's just like the war table. What are we gonna do? How are we gonna do this? What do we have? What can we do? Like, because Asmalor's like, I want the city back, but his eldest son, Livendel, who is the template of the High Elves, kind of like, well, we'll get it back, Father. Like, don't worry, we're gonna make him pay. And But yeah, he doesn't intervene, and he lets the sacking happen. As it almost like it's like there's the opening salvo. I missed it. I wasn't ready. Crap, and boom, the city's sacked. Not the first time either. But no, the way they get it back and all that's
Yeah, you haven't told me that story yet,
I
so
know.
I'll
And
be very interested to read because you're giving I feel really good snippets about the lore. Like you talk about the very powerful mage and like what happens to him, but you don't really tell us what happens to him. I
right.
know just because sometimes you talk a lot and overtell, and then I get snippets of lore that nobody else gets, which is nice.
Mm.
But yeah, there's a lot of information here. There's a lot of backstory of everything that leads up to the time of Eris 10, and I'm very excited to see that written down and be able to actually read that from start to finish. And then on top of that, us here at Sundered being able to build off of that and create the world that we see, create the maps, create the games, and tell the stories based off of such an in-depth, flushed out, full story. It's absolutely. Look at some of these games these days where it's just this half-cocked story coming in here. We're gonna retcon stuff whenever we feel like it because we didn't tell the story correctly, or this is just gonna justify how this works. Every time I ask you a question outside of this podcast and we're talking about lore and stuff, I don't think you ever hesitate to give me an answer because you've already thought about everything. There's so much.
I wouldn't say everything, but I think I cover a lot of good bases like to build off of.
No, absolutely. And then you start looking at some of the, I want to say the word, but like some of the creations that Malekith makes, or how some of the future kind of shifts because of the actions of the gods during their reign, like how much that affects Eris Tin's time, or how much that affects like his lineage and all that moving forward. Your story is very succinct and it's very cohesive, to say the least. And I just, how much time do you spend actually sitting down and writing and thinking?
On an honest answer, it would be think about it a lot. Like I don't stop really. Now, as far as sitting down and writing, it's a little bit harder with little baby, but I have my fire, and I can write wherever I want. I would sit there. I could sit for 4 or 5 hours and write, but because of time constraints, right now I break it into little segments, so I do little pieces at a time. But as far as the thinking about the lore, and I mean, I always have my notebooks or something that I can put notes in because I don't stop. Like I'll be having a conversation about something, but it'll be like, oh, and that's how I get this, and then I gotta write it down, or I'll be like, remember that, and then I'll put a note, send myself an email with it. It I don't stop, and I feel bad sometimes because I feel like I'm too obsessed, like to make sure getting everything, but I'm very passionate about it. As long as I have my time with my family, um, my boys. As long as I have that time with them and my wife, that I have plenty of time to get this.
When you say time with your boys, do you mean myself, John, and Shad, or do you mean your two little ones?
I would say my two little ones, but
Darn.
I do like yesterday playing D&D. What a fantastic time! I had so much fun, like just rolling dice and smashing stuff, or rolling ones and smashing nothing. That was
Yeah,
me.
yeah. Rip John yesterday.
John did a bunch in a row, and then it like spread, and I got ones.
Yeah,
But
my one turned into a one shot, so I'll
yeah,
take
yeah,
it.
that was awesome. That was so great. But
I bring up the boys thing just because I keep going back to the time that we were all sitting in an arena and John and I are going to town and we're like, "Oh, we're dying. Like, what's Bear doing?" And you literally like tabbed out of the game to write a story because halfway through the fight, you were like, "Oh, this is actually a really good scene in the third book where Eris is doing this and this and this, and like I need to write it down." So I would say even the time you spend with us, your mind is going 100% towards, I would say, your dream, your
That
passion,
actually
and,
is a
and what you want to do.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That actually is a really good scene. Um, it's one of the paladins gets ambushed by some really nasty rogues. Like they are good, and he's in deep doo doo, and he's just trying to survive. Like he's like, I gotta get back to like the temple or like get help because he's just by himself and it's night. He's on like a little patrol or clearing his head, whatever. I don't remember exactly what I put, but the that whole thing, yeah, it's exactly right. Inspired just from in the game, and like it does bother me a little bit, especially if it's PvP when I get ideas because then I'm like, dang it, and then I'm like, ah, I'm dead.
I,
Like,
I think we survived that one.
pretty sure
John and I were playing Paladin, so we had some
the
decent self healing.
yeah. Nevertheless, it's I do really enjoy thinking about it. And the thing I want to encourage other people that like writing is don't be afraid to be inspired from things around you, people around you. And someone says something, be like, what? I could use that. Use that in something or an attitude. Like it can. There's so many things if you just pay attention and observe the world around you that you're like, oh, I'm gonna put that's why I like history so much. Like I love reading about the past and pulling ideas that were just so cool. Like for me, picking for what culture, in a sense, do I want to build the humans off of? Well, for me, the Roman Republic. I love the Roman Republic and the military ideas, how they functioned. It was cohesive. It was so. I just I'm very thankful that I'm able to do this. You guys, with my family and my wife supporting me, like I'm so I wouldn't say proud. I'm just grateful. I hope other people appreciate, enjoy the story stuff, like the story and what's going on. I really do. I think about that a lot. I'm like, I hope people really have fun with it.
No, I think it's good. It's good to be proud, but it's even better to be grateful. When you can wake up in the morning and be grateful for, I have the opportunity to tell a story. I have the opportunity to write. I have the opportunity to have a wife and kid. Like life gets so much better. On a side
Does
note, how many times did you think about the Roman Empire today? Leave a comment in the comment section. I'm at like 6, but we've been talking lore all day, so that would make a lot of sense.
I wake up, thank God, and go, all right, what's Rome doing today?
You talked a little bit about like using influence from other people to kind of help you with the story in the writing, and I see that a lot in some of the reading. Not only just you basing characters off of people, but even conversations that you and I and John have had behind the Home Depot on our breaks, like BSing behind bunks of lumber. Just seeing some of that come to fruition and some of that show up in the stories is absolutely awesome. And then I'm not gonna say the word, but the the tag along to the three siblings, what happened with that? The fact that you took one sentence from John and turned that into an entire society
Yeah.
off of his one sentence blew my mind. We literally had a conversation, and the next day you were like, "Oh yeah, there's an entire story for those people," and I was like, "That it blows my mind that you have that ability to just take something that somebody says and build so much off of it."
Well, I have a lot of people to build from. Like think about all the stuff that well I like to read, fantasy, all of that. But uh there's so much out there to just be like, okay, boom, piece, create, boom. How does this? I don't know. There's a lot of booms there. Like my brain. Uh, I think. Well, that's true because like for instance, there. I'll tell you guys a little lore nugget, if you will. It's just for fun. Skylighter, he's an arc, and you'll hear about him in the first book. He's very powerful, very good at what he does, very faithful. He's human, but he still has little qualities from when he was just a regular farmer back in on his land. So like he still buys these little animal cracker cookies that he likes to buy at the market and eats them, has them with him almost all the time. And this is a guy who's like a low level like demigod kind of thing. Like that's what an arc basically is. So you have the gods, demigods, and then arcs. So you have the kind of the three. So he still wants his animal crackers, and it's been 20 something thousand years since he had ascended. So like there's just little things about the person that don't change, and that relates to John because every time John and I we'd carpool to work, and then we'd stop at Fry's or something. He would buy these animal crackers, and I said, "You buy them again, buddy. I'm putting them in the book because you love those things." And then sure enough, yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't know. I don't think it's in this one. I think it's in the next one.
Yeah, I know it's not
Or
referenced in this one, but I think in the couple chapters you did send me for the second book, I think you made mention of them being on his person.
second book. I'm doing a whole thing with
I
Sempronius.
I haven't gotten any more chapters on the second book either.
Mm-mm.
Well, I'm a little butthurt.
Yeah. Well, we got to put this one out first.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Because if I don't put them out, no one's going to be able to read them. They'll just sit on my computer. Well, in my notebooks.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone's gonna have a very enjoyable time reading it. I know I do. I mean, it's a little bit
Biased
it's a little
because.
bit biased, obviously, because my character's in the story and I've
Right.
had influence on it, and it's so attached to us, our friendship, our company, that it would be hard for me not to enjoy reading it. But I do truly think that based on its merit alone, it's gonna do extremely well.
I appreciate that. I really do. And like, it's, let's see, like the other things that I think people, like little things that people would appreciate is like, so the spelling of like Torm. Torm, it's Thorm, right? Thorm. Torm. How do you get from that to that? So I was telling you about it. Like the people that know Torm call him Torm. Like that's his like a facilitation of friendship. I know you. I don't call you Thorm like after your formal name. I'm your brother, and so that's you'll have stuff like that people when we do the audio version they're gonna be like wait, why did he say Thorm and he said Torm, like just stuff like that. I think I don't know. People may or may not, or they'll just be like, "You're an idiot. Why did you even do that?" But I do that because I want to emphasize the brotherhood and the fellowship, especially Torm being a dwarf and what his people go through. I don't know if most of, probably not, but Torm's people, they don't know. He's of Clan Hewer. They chose to serve a different god during that time. They left the dwarven god, which is Dudar right there. They left him to. I mean, not Dudar.
It's Dwindle. It's Dwindle.
Dwindle. Not Dudar. Anyway, he was.
Dudar is a bad guy.
Yeah. Sorry, I pointed. The red's just so. Anyway, they left and went to serve Malachus, and were welcomed, and he is excelled because they had more of an affinity with nature. They felt like more connected to not just the mountains and the mines and all this. It was like, no, we like it all. We want to go walk through the trees, and like we don't want to isolate with. What are you guys doing? And then they go. Yeah.
Well, I believe that we could go on talking about Battle of Lindly and honestly the story and history of Latera literally all day. But unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, fortunately for you and we have wives and you got kids, and at some point we gotta go back to them today.
Heck yeah.
So that has been it for the status quo. Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to check more out about Bear in the Battle of Lindly, we'll be posting links on our social media, giving more information on the book, giving more information on release dates and what the future looks like for the Pantheon of Tyranny series and Sundered Gaming. Feel free to join us anytime on any of our socials. You can follow him at Sundered_Bear on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
Yeah.
You can follow Sundered Gaming at Sundered_Gaming on pretty much all the same. Thanks for joining us. Have a good one.